I had people asking me to tamper with electricity so they don't pay. There's all sorts of things. Or to go on the street, dig the pavement at night so the council doesn't see.
Welcome to the Hospitality Podcast.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Come on, man.
I just need it.
This is the lamb.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Presented by Arthur Gomez.
God damn! I just spent $8,000 on some f***ing wine.
And Quentin Wind.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
So pour yourself a glass because we're diving into the world of restaurants, kitchen and bar. The Hospitality Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome to Breaking the Cork. Today, a new episode of the podcast with a special guest as usual.
But especially very different, actually, to what we had previously. And we have Mario Dessa, who has worked a lot in the hospitality industry in his past, but is very attached still to it. He now runs his own construction company. He works alongside many restaurants, bars, pubs, and he's kind of made his name in the area we're in currently, in Bermondsey, and a big reputation. So welcome, Mario.
Welcome, Mario.
That's a good introduction.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's good.
Did I miss something? Or?
No.
Oh, okay. So just before we get into it, actually, Mario is actually doing construction work for myself at Comptoir Bakery, and he's the one that's building the bakery school. So if ever you come down to check it out, you can see what Mario has done. Hopefully it's very good work.
Yes.
But so far so good.
So far.
But yeah.
So Mario, maybe like a little introduction of where did you start, where do you come from, and also maybe why did you choose now to do you say like builders or contractors?
A builder is a contractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, builder is a contractor. I started in hospitality in Portugal, around 15, 16 years old, on my holidays, working in restaurants and in bars. I actually used to go every holiday 300 miles away from my town in the summer to go to a very touristic place called the Algarve, and go there and find any work I could. They give accommodation, so
seasonal work, basically.
Seasonal work. Go in the holidays 3 months and give flyers, work in a bar, work in a restaurant, whatever you could find. And it was more back then for the experience. But then I quickly, starting to enjoy that actually you meet a lot of different people. I think people that work in hospitality are made of a different fiber.
Yeah.
So that I enjoyed a lot. And there you'd find people in hospitality from different countries. He also helped develop a bit my English. So it was nice. And then in Lisbon, when I became older, I worked always in restaurants. And even when I came to London about 20 years ago, I started to work in restaurants too. First, actually, worked in a bookshop.
In a bookshop?
Yes.
You did mention that previously.
In a bookshop, but it wasn't as vibrant as hospitality, so I thought I need to go back to hospitality.
So what was your job actually in the bookshop? Because
it was just going around. I had a section in the bookshop where if you receive new books, you read a bit the book and say, okay, this is probably self-help and this one is nature. And this, just doing that. Oh. Come up and then you put on on the barcode, this is self-help, and it's probably sports. Yeah. It's like we meant to read 1 or 2 pages of the book, and some of them were clearly part of a section, but others not. But I studied design in school.
Design.
So I was always interested in design. It was mostly ergonomic furniture design. So I always had that little bug in me. And because I always work in hospitality, I had the opportunity to then start to develop a big place where I was working at the time, out of a restaurant, but still a hospitality supplier. And it just kind of went from there. Also, I think it was a bit of a necessity of not working nights in hospitality that made me see where do I have the potential to be connected but not work the nights.
So when you mean like in this period of your life, it's when you used to work for Dynamic Vine,
Yes.
the supplier.
Yes,
Okay.
the wine importer Dynamic Vines. They gave me a good opportunity to develop their business and help them in different ways. And one of them was to actually build all of their premises.
Okay, the Antidote Wine Bar.
The one to bar, most of it there, and also their premises in Bermondsey.
Yeah. So you built the warehouse.
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
warehouse, the shop.
So
everything.
even without, in a way, experience in building, how did it happen that they kind of gave you the, the green light to go for it? Because you didn't really have any I guess you had a background in construction, maybe, or
A bit more like handyman, a bit
Okay.
more like I'll ever go, and it was a lot of that. It was a lot of that opportunity where I was always kind of sticking my head out. I'll ever go. I'll try it. I'll
Yeah.
do it. And they believed in me and they said do it. And with time, things were grown, and you start learning. And yes, it was very important that side of that trust. Yes.
Yeah.
So to clarify, you were working for Dynamic Wine, but what position?
So there I was warehouse manager.
Okay.
So I was receiving stock, organizing the warehouse, receiving, delivering, all things to do with that part of the wine industry. Obviously came with a lot of perks too, of travelings and tastings and education too. They always investing in, educating us and paying us for courses. And so it was nice.
That's kind of the amazing part that we don't really hear about these kind of jobs.
Yeah.
Especially you've travelled a lot to go see,
wine
vineyards,
producers, yeah.
Yeah, so wine producers. So you went to, I guess, France, Austria, Germany.
Spain, Italy, we travel quite a lot. Slovenia.
Okay.
So,
Good.
Yeah, every year we used to do some road trips and some traveling.
So I think we'll have to go into some of the details of that.
Details.
Yeah.
Well, I think, if you could tell us one of your best stories, maybe an anecdote that happened to you during those travels.
Ooh,
Yeah.
there's a few. No, there was.
Because I
There were
know
so many.
winemakers are crazy,
Yes, they are.
by nature.
Yeah, I
Especially
found-
natural winemakers.
Yes, I think natural winemakers, biodynamic winemakers, they really are very good farmers. It's like a farming life, but they're farming grapes. But where you can't drink, if you're a dairy farmer, you don't drink, their milk every day. If you are a biodynamic winemaker, you will have a few glasses of wine. So I think that makes them a little bit special. And also because they believe a lot on farming, that's my understanding, to do with nature and the cycles of the moon and how it used to be before we had calendars.
Yeah.
So they are a funny bunch. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they are
It's,
very funny.
Yeah, we had a lot of. It's a bit of a blur now, but we had a lot of interesting trips and journeys, and it was very nice.
That's very cool. And so basically, after Dynamic Vine, you're like, okay, I want to create my company.
Yes, it was a bit while I was there. So I guess the work I did there standed out a bit to the surrounding neighbors, which they all suppliers of hospitality, very known, famous companies that are around this area of Bermondsey. And as they could see what I was doing, a lot of them approached me, do you want to do it for me? Do you want to do it for me? And at the time, I started to do it a lot in evenings and weekends. It was really challenging, but it helped me because I ended up mastering speed. So I knew I only had those 2 days to show something.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing quite fast, good work. It started with mezzanines, and then everything else that goes around it, shops and warehouses. And as time went past and those neighbors and suppliers, they grew, they kept asking me to grow with them. Okay, I need bigger premises, I need a shop now. And as I grew with them, it came to a stage where I couldn't really do both anymore. I had to commit to something. And so then after COVID, I committed to it 100%. It was a good excuse, COVID, for a lot of things. And for me, it was like, it's now or never. And
Yeah, of course. And the
developed
demand must have been,
yes,
off the roof, really.
yeah, the demand was huge, and people really reorganized themselves and reinvented themselves after COVID. I think it'll be a milestone in history, a landmark where we're always going to go before or after.
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so at that time, it was just yourself, or you had like some friends or like people you know was coming to help you?
So I as time went past, I started to make connections of things that I couldn't do. I had a lot of people in the same position as me, where they were like doing a full-time job, but they wanted to get into a bit the building industry. Some of them to earn a bit of extra cash. Some of them, they really had a passion to do it. So we all used to do it on weekends and evenings. And then you start filtering and meeting better people, or people that just align a bit more with you, and you start building a team. And that will never going to be perfect, because teams, they develop and expand, and some people leave and some people, don't want to do it anymore. So so that's still growing.
It's a bit like in a restaurant.
Yes.
People coming for 1 week and they're leaving,
And then
some
they
people
go,
they stay for life. Yeah.
And do you miss working in hospitality a little bit, or?
I do. I think hospitality, especially in London, I miss parts of it, but I think what it brings is a lot of different personalities from different countries with different experiences and different ages too. And that is nice. The social part of it, it's nice. But then there's other things that sometimes.
There's the good side and the bad side
Yes,
of everything.
yes. I think what I miss the less is not the long hours, because I still do long hours, but the non-sociable hours, or sometimes missing birthdays or Christmases, or those times of the year where actually sometimes you need to be doing a shift, but you want to be somewhere else.
So you feel like you have a bit more work coming, so you decide to open your company.
Yes.
Who's your first client or the first company you work with?
Actually, the company I was working for, Dynamic Vines, as I left, they
hire
knew,
you.
Yes, they knew I was going to leave, and they said, actually, we have a project for you.
That's good.
So they were actually my first client when I left. And then I had a couple of other clients that I already worked for, where I think partly because they need it and they had the projects about to start, but also they wanted to give me the kind of confidence to do it. They said, okay, when you leave, come and do this for us. And that was the Ham and Cheese Company and the London Honey Company, where the London Honey Company, we had a relationship of, building all their premises, and they always supported me, and I always been available for them. So I done literally everything there. So those two were the ones that I took on big projects straight away. Yeah. But the very first project was Dynamic Vines when I left. Yeah.
It's a nice relationship that you have with Dynamic Vines.
Yes,
the fact that they, giving you the green light for you to practice as well. So it's really cool.
Yes. Yeah. We're still friends, and we're always going to be, because we know where we came from and what we did together. So. And we're still in the area, and we still do things together.
And all these memories in the vineyards.
Yes. No, it's nice. And also, for who knows the place, it stands out a lot around the area. And but they always supported me, because sometimes to develop yourself you need investment, and they invested. So you helped me a lot. Yes,
true. Giving you some support.
I think for me, you've been very smart in terms of finding a niche market, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the guy to go to for anything under the arches.
Yes.
So you kind of specialize yourself a lot in the arches. Obviously, you know how to do other kind of retail shops and all that, but like your, forte is really the arches, and it's very tricky for some people, for some builders to take on arches, because you need to know a lot about them, and you've done that throughout the years, and you know exactly. Well, I've seen it, working with you obviously recently, when other builders, when they came, they were like planning things which you straight away was like, whoa, there's no point of all of that. What are they doing? But it is something that's like your your USP really, and I found that amazing. Was it intentional, or it just came naturally as you started with Dynamic Wines, who obviously are under the arches as well, and then word to mouth started to spread?
I think it was intentional when I decided to do it full time. I knew the area of Bermondsey that's developing very fast, and it's surrounded by businesses in food and beverage industry, and I knew that there was a demand, that a lot of businesses were moving to the area, and I have a bit of experience, and I could see that was also a change happening in the Arches, where previous businesses have been here for 50, 60 years. They were, they had mechanics around the area, and they had a lot of other businesses that now this is prime location in London.
Yeah.
So I knew, okay, the change is happening. So I thought about, I'll stay around here. Also, what kind of my business plan was also, because all the Arches is so nearby, I knew I could help different people in the same catchment area without having to travel far away.
Too much.
Yes, and he also helped because I knew that because the Arches, they all have the same shape and dimensions, you could very easily adapt one project to the other. Because the dimensions are the same, the heights are the same, they need the same kind of light, they have the same kind of plumbing, so the basics are all the same, so it's really easy to adapt. So that kind of help. And usually what I do with most of my clients, when they want me to start some work, I say, okay, let's go around for an hour or two and look at other projects, and you can literally do it walking distance, and usually by the end of the 2 hours, most of the times I get the project.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Can we say that you're specialized in hospitality, or are you doing other kind of project as well? Or you only do hospitality, like restaurant, bars, bakery?
I try to do just food and drinks industry. So breweries, butcheries, wine merchants. So and more recently, by experience, I actually try and focus more on businesses that make their own products, because I can see that they are the ones that stay the longest, and they grow and develop, and they have a different passion. Because yes, they have retail spaces and they sell to other businesses, but the passion really is on the product they invented or that they're making. They're very niche, a bit like biodynamic winemakers. They are very kind of different people, because it's their niche product, it's their baby. So I've recently been trying to do a bit more of that, because other businesses I've seen moving in the area, that they don't have that side of the business where they just retail or trade someone else's product. Usually they don't stay.
It's not as
that
interesting,
long.
is it?
Yeah, it's not as interesting.
The relationship and all
Yes,
that,
to try and adapt. So I try and understand first what they do and how I can adapt my knowledge to their product to make it work even better. Yes.
Yeah. No, it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
What is your so out of all your portfolio that you've done, which one so far has been like the most your favorite, or at least the most interesting?
Well, they come to our bakery.
But that's not finished.
100% sure of the
okay,
answer.
the ones that are finished. It's a tough one.
Or maybe your more challenging one and your biggest one. I guess maybe it's the same one, but
I think one of the ones that challenges me the most.
I know which one it is actually.
It's the London Honey Company.
Is that the one outside of London?
No, that one is good too. But whatever I do work for them, what I find very challenging is because they have lots of beehives, when they do their harvest, or their warehouse just oozes of honey everywhere. So there's always lots of bees outside the warehouse.
oh yeah.
So if you go outside the warehouse, there's always bees around. Yeah. So whenever I do a project there, it needs to be bee-proof. So the doors need to be really well sealed, and all the rooms and all the gates and all the rooms inside, and we have to make it moth-proof so it doesn't get into the honey, into the comb. So I always have that in the back of my mind. Okay, the bees, they're gonna try and get in here. Yes, but then recently I done interesting projects, like we built a fishmonger's kind of processing plant in an arch, which that was very different. We built also a smokery where they smoke salmon and meats inside an arch.
There's one that's actually not hospitality related. Well, you can say it is a little bit because they've added a cafe, but the gym.
The gym, yes. I learned a lot with the gym.
I did the gym.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got approached to do a gym called Gymnation, and here in Bermondsey too. The initial project was 4 railway arches, and I think because of the age of the owners and also because of the business that I never really thought I would get involved with, it was challenging. But I learned a lot about how gyms operate and how people, they go to the gyms, what they expect to see in the premises. And yes, it was not related to the food industry. I managed to apply my knowledge in the arches, in the gym. I think it would help to that it was their first gym. I think otherwise they wouldn't embrace it so much.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
location, being by Tower Bridge, it was a really good location.
It's just over there, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
literally walking
Yeah.
distance. And yeah, that was very interesting. Forgot about that. It was completely different. And then you also, I find personal interest to learn, each time I do a project, to learn more about a business model.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
a gym works in terms of a business model, how a fishmonger works, or a bakery in terms of what do they import, what do they process, how do they grow their things. I think that side I also find really interesting. Yeah. To see the background of businesses
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how they work, and it's
Super interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, one day I'll do a documentary.
Yeah, you should write a book. Yeah, got so much stories. So interesting.
Documentary in Bermondsey.
Yeah, no,
yes.
exactly. You should.
The builders of Bermondsey.
Yes, yes. And the history of these arches,
Yeah.
they are listed
Yeah.
buildings. They've been built, most of them about 200 years ago.
Yeah.
The ones in Spa Terminus, they were built before London Bridge. Some people used them as refuge during the Second World War, and they also near the river and by the docks. So yeah, they have a lot of history.
Yeah,
It's,
true.
we oversee it because we hear it every day, but
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we think about the history of them, it used to be horses inside of them.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
yeah, it's amazing, that side of it.
And gangsters.
And gangsters,
apparently,
of course,
We
of
found.
Yes, apparently. Yeah.
And if someone in our listeners want to open a business and you want to work with you, 2 questions: are you only working with arches, or are you also doing like a
No, I
big
do
kind
things
of businesses?
outside arches.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's been arches because I started in Focus here, and sometimes we do one arch and the neighbor next door says, when you finish, come around. So that's why it goes from one arch to the other, but obviously we are open to help anyone.
Okay. And my second question was, how does it work? So do we send you an email? Do we call you? We explain the project. You come over, you have a look. How does it work when you want to open your project? Maybe for people who don't really know where to start.
Usually I get people, they get my contact from someone that recommended. They call me. The first thing I try and do on the initial phone call is try and understand what's the nature of their business and where do they want to go, and then definitely meet and go to the site that they want to develop. It's very important, and see really how best I can help them. It usually starts like that, with
Okay.
visits, maybe go around and show a bit of the portfolio. It usually starts like that. Yes.
Okay.
Especially if you're close to the arches, you'll see his whole portfolio. He'll take
Yeah.
you around every
you
single
around.
arches.
That's what you did.
In an hour, you see a lot of them. Yeah.
Sure.
So,
So we talk about project. Do you have like one project who stand out, like a massive one? Maybe in terms of budget, but also in terms of people you employ, or like the work you had to do.
yes. So I built this.
London Bridge.
That
was
was
massive.
that was yes, Tower Bridge. Now, I think the gym was the longest, because after they became successful with the first gym, they doubled their space and they called me again to come and develop the rest of the space. That was definitely the biggest in terms of area.
Yeah.
But I was building inside arches. But then I think the one where I created the most impact, and which is a different kind of experience, was the London Energy Company. They needed premises outside London, near where they would have a lot of kind of strategically for where they have beehives. So they contracted me, and we went up to the Cotswolds, and out of just a steel frame barn, we made a factory for them.
Oh wow. Okay.
From bottom up, groundwork, concrete, extraction plants, offices.
Well, it's quite impressive when you
Yeah.
part the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And that was like, okay, this was just a steel structure. And actually, they called me there to develop a building that was already done. But I could see so many limitations on that building that on the same field, there was a steel frame. And I said, you should do it there.
Yeah.
And they embraced it, and they spoke to the landlord. The landlord said, yeah, fine. And so then we did it. So it was
That's cool.
literally in the first visit, we managed to change their mind. But it was on the same field, with just something that they had straw stored inside, developed into their premises now.
And how long does it take, like a project like that?
That didn't took long. That took about 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah, it didn't took long.
Is that because of the aesthetics? I mean, there's less little, precision and design or, features? Is that why it goes so quick?
I think it's a lot of planning off-site.
Okay.
It is commercial work, so I always have in mind that each day I'm taking longer, it's a day my client can't trade.
Yeah.
And we also trying to use materials that usually they wouldn't be expected for building. Like when we built the factory, we did it all in massive 6-meter high cold room panels. So we built all the walls in 2 days. But sometimes it could be overlooked, but they're structurally strong, they're waterproof, and then we cladded
Isolate.
it. Yeah, we cladded it in wood to blend in with the rest of the area. So, and you plan the mezzanines ahead. So actually the work could take 2 months or 3 months with all the planning. But when you start, you have everything in place. It's also important to create a background team of my suppliers that then they will deliver on time. There's a relationship there, so things arrive in good time most of the times. But that's very important. It's having the suppliers a good relationship with them.
Yeah. I feel like timing is something that's kind of underestimated when it comes to like building. So, for example, someone who wants to build a restaurant or bar. I mean, we've had conversation before where we was like trying to estimate how long the bakery school is going to be taking, and other stuff that happened before for me as well. But you always say, oh yeah, it's going to only take like, I'd say 1 month max tops, but actually it never is. It's always we kind of, for us on our side, we always think like, oh, it's not much, there's not much to do. But actually, when it comes to building, obviously the big stuff is easy to put in, but when it comes to like the little details and the finishing, that's where it takes the most, the longest. And is that something you get a lot, like from your customers, a bit of frustration out of that, or do you protect yourself quite early from it?
I think a lot of the times plays against me, but I always embrace a project not as my project, but as my client's project. It will be part of my portfolio, but I'm only there to help them. So I try to be as flexible as possible. And that's what sometimes could delay, but it's a good thing, because from the day you started the project until the day you're going to finish, it's good to have flexibility to say, I changed my mind, do you mind changing this? Or is all the unexpected things that could take the project take longer, but it's important to do that instead of saying, this is what I was contracted for, this is what I'm going to do. It's good to make decisions fast. But also, one of the things that I learned along the way, and I try to stick to it, I try to work only, and this is a rule that I do, I only work with directly with the owner of the business. Okay. Because I had experience before where we work with a manager or with someone in charge, and it takes so long to get decisions,
Yeah.
and also it's in the end it might not even be what the owner was expecting. But when you work directly with the owner, you have a better idea of what they want on a daily basis, and also you have a better idea of their time scales and their budgets. It's much easier. I think it only works because of the businesses that I'm involved with, they niche businesses, they growing, but it usually works that way. If you work directly with the owner, you can,
Of course.
it can be more interesting too, and more rewarding at the end. Yes.
Very interesting, and also it kind of makes sense because obviously when you're opening like a new venue, I guess the budget for the building works is like the most important. Obviously, especially for the owner, especially if they don't have much budget, or even if they have a lot of budget, sometimes it's a bit tricky to invest into
Yes.
that building. Did you have any problem maybe with some owner or founder about like the prices or like the budget?
Well, I had to make tough decisions in the past where I'm being paid for what I do, but when people ask me to do something I believe is wrong, I prefer not to do it. And
Okay.
I prefer to step out. And I had lots of these examples in the past before. Most of the times, then we can come to an agreement that the project carries on. A few times I had to say, okay, I have to walk away because this either won't be right or will be dangerous, or because sometimes a budget might not be realistic. And because it's a business, people want to open fast. They don't want to lose trade. But then it needs to be a balance of my responsibility too on the project.
Do you have an example?
Yes, I have a few. Well, I had people ask me before, can you do a mezzanine in wood instead of steel because it's cheaper? And I'm like, no, I won't do that. Or, or where, people telling me to do drains that are not safe or that will go into the neighbor's place.
Oh wow,
Or
really?
people asking me to tamper with electricity so they don't pay. There's all sorts of things, and you have to balance out, or to go on the street, dig the pavement at night so the council doesn't see. There's lots of
Yeah, it's more like illegal stuff basically.
Yes, some is illegal, some is just dangerous.
Yeah.
And also, because in the end of the day, because of the nature of my business, it's not going to be a family of 5 who's going to use it. It's going to be 100, 200 people a day that will come in and use the premises. So it's really important that it's safe. But then, and this is why always I try to put myself on the place of my client's customer. So I can see what they expect from the experience from when they open the door until they leave, and how they're going to use the space, how it's going to work, where things should be placed, the lighting,
The size of the
furniture,
toilet.
the size of the toilets, exactly, like all of that. Because my clients, they're running businesses. Most of the times, it's not their fault if they're not builders. So it's my job to advise them and tell them maybe go this route or maybe go the other route. It's not wrong. It's just I wouldn't try and do what they do. I don't brew beer. I don't bake.
Exactly.
So each to their own. So it's my job to just help. Just like it's my client's job to make sure that their product is safe for their customers, it's my job to make sure everybody's in a safe environment.
True. Also, it's very difficult when you look at some plan from an architect or designer to imagine, to visualize like this kind of thing. I guess for you it's more easy now because you have this experience.
Yes.
But for people maybe who never like open any venue,
What's going to look like?
Exactly.
Yes.
It's always a bit tricky,
Well, you have your kind of thoughts on interior designers, but it's always what's the relationship between actually an architect / interior designer and a builder?
I think you'll find a lot of builders that don't have a very harmonious relationships with architects.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, oh yes.
Because when you're doing like, for example, with let's say with Quentin.
Yes.
So you're working with Quentin, but you're not working with his architect at all.
Yeah.
We're working all together.
Okay.
But I think with Quentin, he's been very open to changes and suggestions, and then the architect too. And we made a lot of changes since the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that initial plan doesn't exist.
Yeah, it changed a lot.
It changed a
dramatically,
lot,
yeah.
but that's good. It's good for all the parts. I think sometimes also architects, when they work directly with the client, the drawings, they're very specific, they're very technical. It's for client to then understand straight away how it's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's very difficult on those drawings and the dimensions, and so I think sometimes it's that it's hard. Designers a bit different, but also when you work in the food and business industry, it's really hard to find architects that did that kind of work too, especially in manufacturing. So it's a bit difficult to then get them to do something that the client will understand and really work. I think very important. The first step is to understand, how do you operate, what do you do, how do you produce, how do you brew your beer, how do you bake your cakes, how you extract your honey, how do you store your wine?
Exactly, yeah.
Is it going to be in a warm place? Is it going to be in a cool place? Is it going to have light? Really important that. And sometimes maybe architects don't take the time to do that.
True.
And when there's changes, architects could make changes mid-project and say, actually, that doesn't work. We're going to do it this way. And the client agrees. And then the builder needs to come to the client and say, that change the architect made, it's going to cost you this much. And then the client realize, wait a minute, do you have another option?
Yeah. We'll come back to the first option.
Yes. So, it's mostly good. And at the end, ourselves and the architects and the client, we're happy and we can show something that's working for everybody. And it happens a lot where I'll meet architects for the first time on a project appointed by the client, and afterwards the architect says, I got another project, you want to build it for me? Because the relationship became good. So it goes.
Do you have some architect like that where you kind of not always working with them, but like very often?
I have a couple. Sometimes too, what happens is I would also recommend an architect. So if you find someone that you like and you work to like with them, you could also recommend it to your clients, because you're going to be on the same wave and you kind of know each other. It's easier to stuck to someone you know.
Sure.
So, and also they know my capabilities and they know what I can do. So sometimes it's easier that way. Yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
I've got there's one story that you told me previously I found that really hilarious, and it's the story about the camera that you installed outside your house,
Yes.
and you bought a dummy car.
Oh, yes.
What's that?
So one of the issues in London, unfortunately, and in the rest of the UK that us builders have is our vans being targeted for tools. And a couple of years ago, one Sunday morning, my neighbor woke me up and said, I'm really sorry to tell you, but your van is fully open. All the tools, everything's on the street. So someone broke into my van. They stole, nearly 10 grand worth of tools. And they created a lot of damage in the van. And I live in a normal London street where I don't have off-street parking. So what I did after being through all of that, I invested a lot more in the security in my van, and I installed two cameras outside my bay window, and I bought a very cheap car. I think it was like £300.
Okay.
So what I do, but I paid for the car, I paid for the insurance and the parking permit. So every morning when I leave, I put that car on on that space, and in the evening when I go home, I move the car away. So I know the van is always outside my house. It's not, bulletproof, but it helps instead of having to park somewhere with less light. And there's actually it's a protest. It's more like a demonstration now in the first week of February, where a lot of builders from the London area, they're going to go and do a slow drive around Westminster, because it's happening a lot to everybody in London, and the deterrent is very low. So because it's just tools and it's not considered like breaking into a house, so the deterrent is low. So it's a big problem.
I didn't know about that.
That's why I tell a lot of builders, don't go to a market and buy second-hand tools because that came off someone else's van.
Yeah, of course.
So
I
yeah,
like
Because
bikes.
after they're selling the
yeah, they tried to make it legal now for car boot sales to sell second-hand tools.
really.
Yeah, some of them already did it because it's good publicity for them and it makes sense. But they're trying to, make it illegal. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's crazy, yeah.
Hopefully
Kind of
it'll
makes
never
sense.
happen again.
Yeah. No.
It's a bit like the bikes,
Too
really,
true.
The-
Yeah.
the-
Yeah. It's a bit when you're going to Shoreditch.
Yeah. So obviously you've worked in hospitality and have done all these positions. So you got the stereotype of the the bartender, the waiter, which are pretty much in a way the same. And then you've got now the stereotype of the builder. Any in common?
Lots, yes. Yes, I would say, yes, that's a good question. I would say you could literally put a building trade into, you could put a building trade into hospitality trade, yeah.
Like what the electrician is like the bartender,
I
the
think
plumber
so.
is like the sommelier.
No, I think the electrician is definitely the bartender.
Yeah.
Yes, all the flair and
Really?
all the cocktail. Definitely, the personalities and the energy is very similar. The chef is probably the bricklayer.
Yeah.
I would say the chef is a very important position,
True.
both of them, but they stereotypically they're very bold and
Yeah.
big personalities, and you'll know when they walk into a room.
Okay, you're them.
Yes. So yeah, I think so. It's interesting question because it's similar. Yes.
Do you have your own team or do you hire like third party when you have work?
No, I have my own team,
You have your own team.
which is growing.
Okay.
And then there's also some trades that I subcontract because I don't need them every day with me. So some trades that I don't need every day with me, I subcontract and they come in and they help for the duration I need them. But it works both ways because sometimes electricians or refrigeration engineers, they don't want to work for a company. They do their own work, so you just contract them and then they go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have what? Electrician, plumber.
Electricians, plumbers, carpenters,
Okay.
and then concrete work. A bit like when you do a big function in hospitality, you get some extra people to help, or
True,
when it comes
yeah.
to the high seasons, you have extra hands in.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that.
In terms of growing your company, obviously you can go as big as building, a building like the Shard, but what's next in your level to grow? Because obviously it's very hard to keep an eye on, each project, but I guess it's a bit like someone who's got, 3, 4, 5 restaurants. It's hard to keep an eye on them. So at the moment, you're the, how would you say, the not the orchestra, but the guy that how do you call them in English? The one
The
that-
maestro.
or the maestro of your team and your company. But what's next? Is it like maybe have someone that's has the same role as you, maybe a bit junior, and then have trust in him and he has his team as well, or how does it work? Is it quite similar to hospitality
Yes.
in a way?
Yes, it's similar. I think there's a lot of skillful people, but I try to train them on the way I do things.
Yeah.
I want to, obviously, growth happens naturally, but I always have in the back of my mind, I don't want to grow to the point where then if a client that's been helping me on my journey asks me to do something small or that is small for me, but for them could make a big difference on that day. So it's trying to keep that balance. I could come in and develop a railway arch and say, thank you very much, now I'm going. But then one day, if a tap breaks, for me, it's just a tap job. I might come in and do it for free, but for my clients, it's really important, that tap working that day. So I want to keep that relationship that way because I believe if you're there for people on small things, then you're also there for when they need something big. And it should be fair, the relationship, not just give me something big and something small, call someone else. So I think I try to grow, but in a very controlled way.
Yeah, very local, I guess. As
Very
well,
local,
'cause
yes.
You can keep an eye quite easily and jump from. Well, that's pretty much what you're doing today.
Yes.
You jump from one place to another.
Yes.
Yeah, and everyone knows you around here, so That's the easy part, is that you know what's going on, even if your team is doing something. You just hear stuff all the time, so
that
you're
is
kind of in control of it, basically.
Yeah, there is 6,000 railway arches, but I don't want that many.
What for you is a small task, like a small project, and what for you is like a big project? What is the limit, like the difference between both for you?
So usually the very small projects, I try to do them only for clients that I worked before.
Okay.
Just because sometimes of the relationship is already there, and I already built the premises, so I actually know the premises inside out, and I know where this is. So sometimes I'll have clients who say to me, I want to install a new walk-in fridge, or I want to install a new bar, or maybe I want to add an extra toilet.
Yeah.
So we go in, we do it. The small things, we do it in a couple of days. Those are small projects. The bigger ones is when you say, here's the keys, help me out. And you have a whole railway arch to develop, or 2 or 3. Yes, so that's,
Big ones.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
the big one.
You got a big one coming up. I mean, we're not going to talk about it because it has to be secret, but I'm guessing it needs to be secret.
Yeah, there's another
But that's a new challenge for you.
very large, like a railway arch where it's going to be saunas and steam rooms and kind of
Like it's a spa gym.
it's a spa.
Okay.
They do therapy rooms and Pilates, and in a local area too. So yes, it's different too.
Yeah.
It's linked to previous clients, so it's nothing to do with the.
So on the day of the opening of this, can you do a joke where you put a camembert?
Yeah.
You know, where the steam room goes and they go in.
What is this? Yeah.
What did you do, Mario?
Hide what's the name of the one you cook in the oven?
The Mondor?
The Mondor. Hide the Mondor under the seat.
But it is a joke that you do in France, that back in the days, you put like a cheese on the motor of the car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in winter. So whenever you and you put your heaters
Feel
in,
the smell.
yeah, it stays for a long time after.
Which is a good smell for French people, actually.
Yeah, well, it depends which cheese, but you put something a bit more, a
True.
Master or something like that. Oof.
If you put in a sauna.
True. But well, thank you very much, Mario.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time today.
It's a pleasure. It's been nice. I got things out of me. I didn't know they were there.
there you go.
Yeah, see?
And guys, if you got 3, 4, 8 arches, around Bermondsey,
Oh, very small arch.
That's it. If people maybe want to contact you, I know you're already very busy,
Yeah.
but maybe in case, if people want to contact you, do you have any website? Or
I think they should come and find me in Bermondsey.
I like this.
If you have an arch,
You'll know.
yes, you'll find me.
Yeah. So look for Mario in the Bermondsey area and just catch him. That's
I'll give you a little clue where he could be. He's always close to a bottle of wine.
Yes.
That's
Never
true.
too far.
Never too far.
And the banoffee cake.
And the cake. Yeah, exactly.
But
Well,
yeah, thank you very much, Mario.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Don't forget to give us a little rating on Spotify. It always helps the channel to go a bit further. And yeah, next week, hopefully we got another exciting guest. And from now, we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
you.
The Hospitality Podcast.